I received a call at the studio from Lou one morning, and he said, "Gerry, can you come up and see me?" And I said, "Yes, sure, tomorrow morning." He said, "Well, can you come up now?" So I jumped in my car, drove up to ATV House. I got into Lou's office, and he sat me down in front of his desk, and he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, "Gerry, I've decided to buy your company." Now, I have to tell you, I was deeply offended because we had our own company and we had our own letterhead with our names printed on it, and we had a telephone and a filing cabinet, and here he was, he wanted to buy our company. And I thought to myself, what a bloody cheek this bloke's got. What do you mean? I mean, he didn't say, "I'd like to buy your company." No, he said, "I'm going to buy your company."
Lou, I think, suddenly realised the potential of all this that we had. We had many hours of film material that was transmissible. He saw through all the merchandising and the marketing value of our shows. We had lots of characters, that, again, marketing value. So I think he realised for the first time, what have I got on my hands here? I want a part of this, really.
And I sat there thinking, what a damn cheek he's got.
But at the same time, we had another offer from Pearl and Dean.
And then he told me how much he was prepared to pay. And I remember thinking, what a good idea that he should buy my company.
Stand by for action.
Well, Admiral, here's a story that is hard to believe. But it all really happened right here in Marineville.
First of all, the directors of the company were invited to ATV House to have a celebration lunch. Champagne, wine, wonderful food, clink, 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 congratulations, you're joining the family. It was quite wonderful. And then, of course, everything happened very quickly after that.
And we asked Lou Grade, we'd like to move to a bigger, better place. I remember that it was a new factory, empty, a shell. So he sent the financial guy down. He was a very strange man. And he couldn't get in, so all he did was look through the letterbox and go back and said, "Yes, that's all right." And that's how we got our new premises, by looking through the letterbox. Don't think you'd find that now, would you, really?
We were able to take leases out on a factory, 2,500 square feet, 7-year lease straight away. We turned it into a puppet film studio with our own projection room, with our own set building department.
All the cutting rooms, all the offices, everything, all under one roof. So that was a real luxury. Yeah, that was wonderful for us.
I remember that I phoned Lou, this was some months after we had been taken over, and I said, "Lou, we really need to buy 5 Mitchell cameras." And in those days, the Mitchell cameras was about £20,000, even allowing for the fact that it was a long time ago. He said, "Well, why are you calling me?" So I said, "Well, they're going to cost £20,000 each." And he said, "So?" Well, I want your permission." "Gerry, you don't have to ask my permission. Just buy them and get on with it." I always try to make each show different. And so we did an underwater series which was called
Stingray! Stingray! Stingray!
Well, you think about it. We've done everything else, haven't we? We've been up there, down there, we've been in the desert. We've done everything, really. So, okay, what's the next thing?
Stand by to launch Stingray.
Stingray really was a submarine which could go to great depths. This is how they discovered a race of beings that were living underwater.
Because underwater can be just as menacing, can be just as, ethereal as anything else.
Then we had Troy Tempest and Phones. They were based at Marineville, where we had Commander Shaw in charge. And really, it was a battle between Stingray and the Aquamphibians. Each were trying to destroy each other.
And I thought we were going to see some action.
One of the girls in the control room was called Atlanta, and of course the mermaid was called Marina.
Hello, everyone. We haven't kept you waiting, have we?
They had one thing in common. They were both very, very attractive. It set up a jealousy between the two. Those two were both in love with Troy Tempest, lucky old Troy Tempest.
Yeah, real dreamy.
Lots of people proposed marriage to Marina because she didn't speak. She was never going to interrupt, was she?
Well, I certainly know what I'm up against.
It seemed to figure that here she was, a mermaid, so would she talk with bubbles coming out of her mouth, you know? I mean, she mainly did swimming and nodding and flashing her eyes. Well, it could be facetious and say, saved having another voice artist.
Still, guess that's one thing that'll never happen.
You're wrong, Troy. You see, I can speak. In a way.
Marina, was that you? But your lips weren't moving.
No, Troy. But you can hear my thoughts.
Gee, this is great.
It really was just to ring the changes. You know, when you think of the number of episodes and series I made for Lou, it was a conscious effort every time to make something in some way totally different. Even Commander Shaw and Stingray put him into a wheelchair to make it different.
Atlanta's filled me in on some of the stories, sir. How you were crippled in that sub-disaster and about the mysterious underwater craft.
Yeah, well, all that was 5 years ago.
I don't think we ever said, look, guys, you know, now is the time for us to make more of the characters. I think all that happened was that the people who were building the puppets were making them better and better and becoming more attractive to look at. And so it followed that because you have a good-looking guy on the screen and a good-looking girl, one of the writers inevitably would write a scene where there was a certain amount of jealousy shown. We always screened the finished pictures for our writers, and other writers would think, oh, that's a good idea, we'll develop that, and I would have my input as well. So it was just a natural progression. In the early puppet shows, if we'd have had these horrible-looking dolls falling in love with each other, I think everybody would have rolled on the floor and laughed. So I think it was just a natural progression.
It's difficult to say this to you, Atlanta, but I think your father's more involved in this than you think.
You mean he knows something we don't?
No, Phones. He doesn't mean that. Go on, Troy. Why don't you say it? You think Father is the traitor.
Now, Atlanta, I know how you feel, but let's look at this calmly.
Calmly? You accuse my father of being a traitor and expect me to be calm?
Atlanta, I'm only looking at the facts.
What facts?
We were getting some very good voice artists.
If he was awake, he could have got to the tower before us.
If he was awake, if it was a joke, if he was slugged. There's too many ifs, Phones.
Yes, Don Mason. You know, where I found artists is sometimes seeing them in something, you know, but I was mostly looking out for the right accent as well as being an actor. So I don't know, I don't remember specifically how it came to mind. Then as we were going on, we were using a lot of actors, so I would get agents sending me sometimes unsuitable people, but sometimes they were just right. So Don was very nice.
What you need is to go to some lonely place and forget all about the wasps.
Pity I didn't know all this earlier. It would have saved Troy Tempest a trip. He's going out to that spot to look for evidence.
Say that again?
But Troy Tempest is taking Stingray out to sea looking for evidence.
You don't say.
Robert Easton, yes. He became, later on, I saw his name on credits, he became the coach, a voice coach in Hollywood. It was quite special, was Robert Easton. Yes, I remember him. He a bit pernickety, too. He'd hold up things about a word, you know. Oh, God, no, come on.
There's no doubt about it. I'm really onto something big.
He was very odd. He was about, I would say, about nearly 7 foot or something. He was tall and rangy, and he was different.
Oh, Troy. No. You mustn't.
Well, I thought Lois had a very good tone to her voice. I thought she was absolutely right, and of course she's American too. So that helped. I was surprised to get her, actually, but I persevered, and we got on very well. And I was quite happy because I'd done loads and loads of voices. And I just thought, no, Lois Maxwell, she's Miss Moneypenny. That would be a very good hook to hang things on. And yeah, she was extremely good. I think she had just the right quality for, working with Commander Shaw. So I think that worked very well.
If I have got a hero, then I guess it's the man who actually runs the Wasps, because he takes all the responsibility. Yeah, Commander Shaw must be a real swell guy.
Ray, yes. Well, Ray was now in the Troubleshooters, I think it was, on TV. So he was, always the big tough guy and everything. Very versatile. Ray was known to be quite a ladies' man.
It is true, isn't it, that whenever you stand up in front of people, they scream at you?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess so.
And it is true, is it not, that if you are seen walking down the street, people chase you and attack you and tear every piece of clothing from your back?
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. You are causing chaos among the Terranians. I couldn't do better myself.
He was multi-talented, and, sometimes we'd have maybe 4 or 5 different added voices together with the regular ones, so we all had to do things.
Aritemis to Solar Base. Now below the Earth, in the Solar Sea.
Just relax, Henry. We're on a beautiful island. Now just enjoy it.
Oh, this is all your fault. You told me Stingray had been destroyed.
But, Your Excellency, you told me that.
That's no excuse. You flat-footed dromedary.
Stay right where you are, mister.
When I grow up, I'm gonna be an aquanaut, just like my father was.
Boy, I can't wait to see the first shots on the screen.
On one of our many trips to America, we saw colour television for the first time, and we were just staggered, amazed. We said, my God, look at that stuff in black and white, We can't compete with this.
At the time, the only colour process was Technicolor, and this involved 3 reels of film, 1,000-foot reels of film, running simultaneously in a camera. A prism in front of the lens split the colours that it was looking at into primary colours, and they were recorded separately. It's a very involved process. Things like Gone with the Wind were filmed with it. But if I tell you that the Technicolor cameras were so heavy that they had to be put on the dolly, which is a camera dolly, or a camera tripod, using a block and tackle to raise them. So it was a very slow and a very, very expensive, wonderful colour system. But then Kodak managed to produce a single strip of film, which could be exposed like any other film. And when it was developed and printed, it came out in colour. And that meant suddenly that it was possible for us, who were making television pictures, to make them in colour.
We are about to launch Stingray.
So we were really knocked out by it. We got back, saw Lou, and said, Lou, you've got to do colour. It didn't take too much persuasion, but we were going into unknown territory. We had no idea what we were walking into, and of course it was costing money.
Being cautious, as I've always been, I sent Reg Hill to the American networks where they had been shooting colour for some time, colour television. And while he was in America, we were busy in pre-production building all the sets that we were going to use. And then Reg came back and he took one look at the sets and said, can't use that colour, right, repaint it, can't use deep greens like that. Reds are out, it bleeds, and so we had to tear all the sets apart and rebuild them.
Well, I guess we only thought we knew what we were up against.
You couldn't use white because that dazzled. You couldn't use anything stripy or too patenty because that dazzled your eyes. And then if you had back projection, that clashed with that. You couldn't use blue because blue was the blue background. We found out all these things.
If you look at the first films we made in colour, they all have one thing in common. When you looked at the screen, it said, they are shooting in colour. Everything was colourful.
So we found ourselves now being the pioneers of colour with people from other big production companies doing live action stuff coming to us asking for advice. How do you do this? What colour can you use? What colour you can't? It put us on the map, really.
There was just one thing used to really upset me, and that was that we would shoot in colour. We would get a colour print of the finished picture. They would make up to 5 prints of the whole film, adjusting the colours in the laboratory until they met with our total satisfaction. And then we would say, yes, that looks absolutely wonderful. Will you now make a black and white negative, please? Because we've got to make black and white prints for release. And so we were screening them here in black and white and in America in colour. But I heard a very funny story, which I will never forget, and that is that a child who had been watching week after week suddenly watched a repeat. And the mother said, oh, Stingray's on again today, it's being repeated. Oh. So he sits in front of the television, switches on, he's now got a colour set, and Stingray comes up in colour. And he rushes into his mother and says, Mum, they've coloured it.
Dive, Troy, dive!
Check all instruments' phones.
My idea was to make a waterproof Stingray and actually fly it through water in a big tank. Reg Hill said to me, we can't do that. I mean, you get a big enough tank to do that. The pressure of the water would be so great. I mean, you'd have to have steel girders and God knows what to hold it in. And then came up with an idea which was very simple but enormously effective. We built aquariums, and we were able to shoot through the aquarium, and behind the aquarium we had a cyclorama with the seabed painted, a few rocks, a bit of seaweed, and now we got some fish, all the same type, but of different ages. There were little tiddlers and there were whopping great big ones. And we put these into the water, and of course, shooting through that, we flew the Stingray behind this tank, and it looked as if Stingray was underwater. And of course, the small fish looked a long way away from camera, and the big fish looked very close. So it gave us a great deal of depth and perspective. And that was probably the greatest technical contribution to the success of the series. Reg Hill was a very cautious person, and you need somebody like that when you're detonating explosions 5 times a day inside a building. And he got the London Zoo to give him their manufacturers, and they made the tank because he was worried that it might break. And one day they were shooting through the tank, and it was lunch, so they all put their equipment down, and they're walking towards the door, and there was an enormous bang, and this tank exploded. Of course, the water and fish went all over the floor. But had it have happened while we were filming, there would have been some serious injuries.
Captain Troy Tempest of the World Aquanaut Security Patrol, this is your life. And viewers, the program has been one of the most carefully guarded secrets of all time.
You can say that again.
One of the best early shows, I think. It's a work in progress as far as I was concerned. You do one thing, one series, and you think, oh, I'd really like to have done that, X. So bit by bit, you're improving, or you're saying, let's be a bit daring here, I felt it was the beginning of a new era with what we were doing.
And we started to make the big heavyweight films that most people remember now.
Well, Admiral, what do you think? Like the man said, that beats all.